Love set you going like a fat gold watch. The midwife slapped your foot soles, and your bawled cry took its place among the elements. Our voices echo, magnifying your arrival. New statue. In a drafty museum, your nakedness shadows our safety. We stand around blankly as walls. I'm no more your mother than the cloud that distills a mirror to reflect its own slow effacement at the wind's hand. All night your moth breath flickers around the flat pink roses. I wake to listen. A far sea moves in my ear. One cry and I stumble from bed, cow-heavy and floral, in my Victorian nightgown. Your mouth opens clean as a cat's. The window square whitens and swallows its dull stars. And now you try, your handful of notes. The clear vowels rise like balloons.
Slow Rise is a drawing of this rather grand bathroom that was part of this suite that I had stayed in one night, and obviously a bather. There's this gentle disjunction between the stasis of the architecture and this movement, this sort of schismatic shift amorphously upwards of the figure through this rendered geometry. I was trying to give some sort of notion of movement and perhaps transformation.
I made this painting in response to the way I felt about having my son. I think we tune out and our eyes glaze over when we hear about this notion of a mother's love. It's sweet, it's tender, it's nearly embarrassing to talk about. What I experience and what I think women on the other side of giving birth are trying to communicate is the insanity of it. It's those things, but then it's also raw and awful and possessing. And I painted this hand a few times, larger and larger, because it felt right. It made visible the surreal nature of having a child. That form being distorted like that creates a break with what we expect to see of a mother and child, and allows maybe for a bit more room to take it in and to contemplate.
Abstracted figures play an important role in my recent paintings. They populate the surface, acting as both lifeless shapes and narrative actors. The so-called figures in my paintings are mostly indiscernible, save for a few visual cues. I look at Art Deco posters and old cartoons to see how the body is broken down or distilled to just the essence. I love how a single gestural stroke can denote a pose, or an accidental mark or splotch of paint can create a Rorschach-like head.
So recently I've started researching works by unknown artists, focused most recently on 17th century work, particularly the Vanitas by artists I could find in museum collections who were unknown. I was interested in the Vanitas for thinking about it as we were going through a pandemic, being that the Vanitas is really about death and the transience of life. In this particular case, I was interested in looking at unknown artists because, of course, I can't even begin to imagine who they might have been, really, and that mystery I find intriguing, but also in the case of some of this imagery, also rather comedic. And the paintings are sort of entryway into thinking about who they might have been, kind of inventing narratives about why they might not have been remembered, or how political fashions change, how historical accidents occur from natural disasters to wars and all kinds of things that make certain things lost to history.